And this is a funny thing. I actually learned this from one of my nephews, and I was learning how to DJ because I was like, would it be fun to DJ a class, like DJ my own classes? And I remember like being so technical. My nephew walked in the room and he started touching buttons. Like he was super young at the time. And so many cool things were happening. I'm like, yo, how do you know this? He's like, I don't even know what I'm doing. And I was like, oh my God, what the hell? I could have done that too? And so I started doing the same thing. And I have my own ways of mixing, and I just correlated that to life. Shout out to my nephew for teaching me the biggest lesson is stay a student and just learn as you go. And in the mistakes is where you find actually the key to unlock half the things you think you knew.
What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the Studio North podcast. We are here at Studio North Toronto, and I'm very excited for today's episode. We have a very special guest. He has been with us from day one here at Studio North Toronto, one of our OG faculty members. He is an artist in the true sense of the word. He's an icon and a legend in the street dance community. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for the one, the only, Raoul.
Hey, what's up, everybody? What's good? What's good?
Welcome to the podcast, Raoul.
Yes,
Thank you so much
here.
for being here. How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling great. I feel amazing. You know, I got my best suit on.
Dude, you're always looking sharp. Every time I see you online, every time I see you in the studio, even when you're in class, you're always looking fresh.
Thank you.
It's amazing to see, and I definitely look up to that because sometimes I show up in sweats and
you
not
show up comfy.
Look at my best self. You're right. I am very comfortable in that. Anyone that has seen you online, that has met you in person, they know just how of an amazing all-around artist that you are. Obviously, we're going to chat about a little bit about dancing, but we're going to get into so many other avenues of your art. Let's start at the dancing. I'd love to just chat about how you go about teaching in class, because out of all the instructors, what I really admire about you is how you structure your class. And I still remember taking class from you. It was when we first opened, and I was just like trying to be a little fly on the wall. And what I loved about how you held the class was the way you structured it was in the beginning, you taught the movement, you taught the steps, you taught the foundation. Yep. And which is, very common in a street dance drop-in class setting. Yes. But then about halfway through, you kind of transitioned over incorporating these movements into choreography, which is very common. And in this, in our dance community, that's how a lot of people dance, and that's how a lot of people learn. And so you met us at this point where you're here to offer all this valuable knowledge and information that you have, while also you're meeting us at a point where you recognize how a majority of the dancers in the classroom are learning, and you just did this intertwine. And I still remember it to this day, and I tell all my friends about it back home. It was beautiful, and I would just love to explore that a little bit with you, how you approach teaching, how you approach bringing your art, which obviously you have such rich history in, and there is such rich history in dance, and how you bring that to the classroom setting. So it's more of an open-ended question, but I just wanted to ask, how do you approach your classes when you're teaching? What do you keep in the forefront of your mind, and how do you do this delicate balance and dance, no pun intended, where you're teaching movement and choreography in the classroom setting?
Now I have a specific warm-up I do, and been studying dance for this long. I've started to understand that every country has their own traditions. And so in the beginning of class, I share Toronto's traditions, in which I've trained under some of the guys. We call ourselves club heads because we go clubbing a lot. So my friends Kevin Augustus, you got Adnan, you got a couple other guys that I dance with frequently. And when I dance with them frequently, they always sharing with me how they approach house music. And because of that, there was one time I had a workshop with them, and I was telling this beautiful story about how I didn't know who they were, and I would just stand beside them, and I would just copy their movements. And so now when I teach the class, I start with warming up, and I'd be like, this is a homage, paying homage to the people I look up to, which is Toronto house heads and Toronto club culture. So I start with that first now. So that's my paying homage to Toronto. and then I'll let the class know, we're going to different regions depending where I've been influenced. So I could go to New York, I could be like, yo, I was in the UK and I was in this crazy club called the Book Club, and they were like baby powder on the floor and we were freaking it like this, so we're gonna try that. Or I can go to New York and be like, okay, under Mop Top Crew, this is how we train in 36 chambers. And there's so many intersections in which I'll incorporate in class. Or sometimes it'll be through the warm-up, I can see, okay, I feel like today's a jack day because the music's making me feel this good. Also, today we're just focusing on body undulation. And because I teach at a university, I have so many substructures that my mind can just be like, okay, I see that they lack in a little bit of groove. Let's focus on groove. Okay, so timing with groove, levels with groove, movement with groove. Games I play like the clockwork method. I think of shapes like a clock, moving around a clock, either counter or the opposite way. I just be creating any ways to get you outside of just thinking in a box, outside of the box, and just think that movement is open and free. But the idea is served around this jack or this heartbeat that carries the movement forward. So that's kind of how it's an open-ended question because it can change weekly, but it just depends on what I'm feeling, what the music's giving at the time, and what the contribution of the students is.
Dude, that's beautiful. What we should be calling you Professor Raoul. I feel like you teach, like you mentioned, you teach at a university.
Yes.
Whereabouts do you teach, and what do you teach?
Right now, I teach at Toronto Metropolitan University, and I teach vernacular dance / street dance, which is kind of emergence of. I like to think of it this way: if a lot of the jazz dancers were still around, they'd be doing what we're doing today. Because during oral tradition, we all follow the music and we keep changing. So I think of it as a way of me going back, honoring, and then bringing them forward by introducing to how it's changed, how we've adapted new language and things like that.
So how many years have you been teaching at TMU now?
At this TMU would be 5 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's unreal.
Yeah.
And so you mentioned vernacular jazz. Would love to
Yes.
dive into that.
Yes.
I know you're passionate about that, and I know a lot of listeners might not know specifically what that is or what even jazz is, where it came from, how it's being interpreted today. Because a lot of studios that you go to, you take a jazz class, it's a lot different nowadays than it used to be. And so I would just love to hear and just allow you to educate a lot of us on vernacular jazz, where jazz is today, and just kind of know a little bit more about that.
I mean, jazz is such a beautiful subject because a lot of people just coordinate it to dance, but jazz is the stories of the people and how they've managed to accomplish things out of like slavery, you're thinking of ring shouts, you're thinking of ragtime music, blues music, speaking the voice of the people, any ways of bringing yourself outside of yourself and believing in this higher being or moving through spirits is how I would define jazz. It's something that you cannot just use words to kind of describe. It's something beyond words, and it's a feeling that people push through, and it's like celebrating joy through pain. And so when you think of jazz, you're thinking of stories, you're thinking of people, you're thinking of what they went through and how they got through. And then there's so much power when you learn those stories and you're like, yo, this is not just dance, but you almost like your eyes light up because you're like, yo, this is beyond dance. This is the story of the people. And jazz is the story of the people. It's the story of the people through music and dance and culture and finding ways to cultivate music. You could take away the drums, we got shoes. We got soft shoes, and it keeps going. Even to any other dance, you think in any street dance is the same ideologies, which is so amazing. So I always like to think of any foundation that is within the street vernacular is the stories of the people. And that's the things people don't pay attention to is they try to really define something when you can't define someone's history. There's so many people that collaborated to this idea and continue to build onto it, where it became more than just pain, it became celebration. It became something that we drove through from pain into love, into light. Yeah, so you could describe it in so many ways, but to me it's the people. And following the lineage of the people and how far they've come and what they've overcome.
How there's a quote that you said you resonate with, and it's see the music, hear the dance.
Yes, See the Music by Balanchine. Yes, See the Music, Hear the Dance.
What is unpack that a little bit for us.
So there's this weird thing, and this is kind of like how I connect my jazz and my house dancing, is because when you see the music, we in house dance we call it catching the ghost. So catching the ghost is when you're so far outside of your body that foundation is not even a thought. It's music. Music is the first foundation that's driving you forward. So when you're just listening to music and your eyes are kind of dissecting it in so many ways, it's such a beautiful thing because you can literally see everything happen naturally. And then from somebody watching you, they can hear that because you're educating them on what you see. So usually when people dance, they try to catch the most obvious things and you're like, yeah, I hear that too. But when you show them, that's when they're forced to listen. And they're not listening to the music, they're listening to you because your approach to the music is what's telling the story and your foundation is solely based on the music. It is not based on what was written, but based on how you decide to write.
Yeah, I feel as well like watching amazing dancers, it kind of goes along with that same the quote, but like you almost see them showing you what's in the music that you might not have heard through the musicality, through things that you might not just listen to it when you're listening to it on the radio, and then you see it and they're able to show you parts of the music that you never heard before. And I feel like that's what amazing dancers and choreographers and artists can do, is take something that you might not have heard or listened to before, but by seeing it visually, you're able to open this door of, whoa, I didn't even know that was there.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. So how did you even get here? Like where, because here is obviously such an academic and a wise, you have so much knowledge. You have clearly you study this day in and day out.
Yes.
Has it always been like that? How did you even get started in dancing? Where did that journey begin? Open the floor.
That's the greatest question, and that's my favorite question: is how did this all start? And it starts me at 16 years old. 16 years old, moving to Canada from Zimbabwe. I was born in Bulawayo, so I moved at 16 years old. My mom brought me here. Prior to that, she came when I was 13 years old, and I was still in Zimbabwe. She had come here. She was in shelters until she eventually got a job and then managed to have money to bring us over. So when she brought us over, we were living in an area called Mali, or it was between Eglinton West and Lawrence Avenue. So I was in the middle of that street, and I remember her being so busy that we didn't really have much to do for ourselves. We were in a new country, and it was during the winter time, so we started school right away. So like a week later of me arriving, I had to be in school. So me and my sister were in the subways trying to figure it out, and I already remember how almost like it introverted me. It made me feel like I didn't know what was going on. I had to quickly adjust. And so then in school, I became the introvert. I was just in the corners, just hiding. And then I learned about this after-school program in which a teacher named Jay Rebel, he's from Supernatural's B-Boy, he was teaching this after-school program of B-Boying. And so then I found dance because dance was a way to just like stay. So when I was like, after school, I'd go do his program. And during school, during lunch break, I would train in the hallways. So I did that for about 4 years of my life, just training B-Boying with no expectation of anything outside of just training, just doing something with myself, because I didn't really know too many people, right? And so then after school, I meet this guy named Sean. Now, Sean is a hilarious story because me and Sean, I met him at So You Think and Dance. Now, I was dressed up in at that time, it was the double T, the 6XL, the white with the black laid under.
Yeah.
I had the big jogging pants with the Scarface Air Force Ones. You had to get them in square one. The craziest stuff fashion. Like, I looked a hot mess. I had my big afro with the hat down so the puff was on the side. And then I see Sean. He had locks with skinny jeans. And I was like, what the hell are you wearing, bro? Like, that's not fire. And this was at the time when nobody was wearing skinny jeans. So it was frowned upon, and I was clowning him, and I remember that. And the funny story is, before I even met him, I was talking to somebody else at the back of Circling Dance Line. And I had forgot my passport. I wasn't even a citizen yet, so I forgot my passport. When I came back, Sean was at the back of the line. And then he started waving and popping and stuff. And this was the first time I ever saw that. Remember, I had just only seen B-Boying. So I was like, oh, yo, this is the coolest thing I ever seen. those illusions are dope. And so then Sean's like, yo, I know a place we can practice. And I was like, oh, I don't got to be in the streets no more. So we went to this place called SYC and Tropicana. And Tropicana is, we learned about the Crump group, which you see Rhino, you see all these amazing crumpers, you see all these amazing b-boys like Trick Troubles, Flow Assassins, Militians, Supernaturals. We all came from this venue, this rec center called Tropicana. And we all built our name through this. So that's kind of how we became who we are today.
Wow.
Was this rec center. Nigel came, Daniel came, Icy came, Paul came. It was a random rec center with one mirror and one little speaker. And they used to feed us and give us bus fare home. Wow. And that's how we all of us came from there, because they gave us opportunities to teach.
Wow.
Yeah, and so shout out.
what year would that have been? If
this would have been 2009, 2010.
Okay.
Earlier, yeah.
And so then around this time, was this when Moonrunners started? So you're co-founder of Moonrunners. How did that, obviously, for those that don't know, maybe tell a little bit about who Moonrunners are. I mean, if you're in Toronto, you know, but how did that come about? Yeah,
so basically it was me and Sean for the longest time, and we would be best friends now. Now you see us hanging out, and he's showing me around the city, and my style's starting to change because I'm with this guy who's like so different, like a Filipino guy with dreads. You've never seen this before. It's like the coolest thing. So we're going to these different events. I remember one time we went to this event, and Snap and Icy were there, but they didn't even know us. We didn't know each other. And me and Sean was sitting there like just eyeing them out, like, yo, we're going to call these guys out. We didn't end up calling them out that day. But it was a time where dancehall was so prevalent. So you would see a lot more dancehall. There was big dancehall crews like Baby Boys and so forth. And so then we started seeing the surgence of these amazing dancers. And so some of them started coming to this rec center too. And so at one point, it became us just friends who were chilling at this rec center. So they were started as 5 of us, which was me, Nigel, Sean, Paul, and Daniel. It was 5 of us, and we just like trained every day, and we were just best friends dancing. That was it. And as the crew started building, we started walking around with matching shirts, and I remember people would look at us and like, yo, you guys are cool. And because we'd always walk together with 5 people, and dancing schools, teaching schools, performing schools, has a big group. And this is the time before crews were just like only on stage doing performances. There wasn't really street crews besides b-boying. We were only closest to b-boys. So you were seeing the surgence of like these cool cats just walking around looking kind of fly. I mean, the fashion was okay, but looking kind of fly. And everybody been like, yo, this is dope. These are just cool cats. And then it built our popularity, and then we just stayed committed to. Now we're just family. It's never just been dance. Dance was almost the bridge that kept us in the same location, but family is what kept us together till now. And it's like almost 16, 17 years later.
Wow.
Yeah, going on 20. Well, me and Sean going on 20, but yeah.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. That's been a reoccurring theme, I think, with a lot of faculty that we talk to, is getting into dance. So much of it, dance was just the vessel, and it was the friendship that really started in the very beginning. And I think that's what's true with, dance today. I know Carmen and myself talk about it all the time, but like, dance is beautiful, and it's changed our life, but at the end of the day, it's the people and the community. That's what we've gotten the most from, is just the family and the people that are in your lives that are there from the very beginning to where you are now, and they're able to see you through all the different stages and fashion trends and bad hair choices. Like they've seen me at my absolute worst, but I think that's what's really beautiful about dance too, is it brings people together.
Yes.
While you absolutely can be dancing on your own and going solo, there's that community aspect that I feel is what drives us so much and what we're so passionate about. And we just want, other people to experience that and have those same experience. But it is really cool to hear that common denominator, that it just started out as friends, just started out as hanging out, doing cool moves, watching VHS, DVDs, YouTube, and then it essentially like transformed into this huge career and opportunities. So that's really cool to hear that that's also kind of how it started for you as well. So at this time was Moonrunners, like you said, there was b-boying influence. Was there, what other styles were, you guys starting to explore different styles at the time? Because obviously now, all of you are so well known in each of, your individual styles. But at what point did it start to transition, or maybe not transition is the right word, but exploring other styles from kind of those b-boy roots, which is awesome because that's how I started too. I started out b-boying, and I think it's an amazing and unreal foundation to start out with, that you have that and then you can build upon, which I think is so dope. So how did that exploration start?
So, I mean, so after all of that, and Moonrunners, I guess, was a hybrid crew in that sense, because again, there was no outside influences, because it was just a mirror. We only had a mirror and we had a speaker. And at that time, people were trying to fuse crumping and pop, and everybody was trying to do whatever just to mix things, because we were in the room together. It was like, it was a force of habit. You just were creating things naturally.
Yeah.
And during that time, I started getting into company work. So you start to see me now getting into theater, dancing in theater. And because I'm dancing in theater, and you have to also remember, I'm still new. So I'm not seeing a lot of styles. I'm only seeing what I see when they come around me. It's almost like this box that keeps growing. So I get into this company and they start teaching house dance. And I'm like, yo, this is crazy. And then shortly after I leave that company, I get in another company, which is the company I'm in now, Holla Jazz. And they taught jazz dance. And I'm like, what is all of this? And I think the key thing that made me different than a lot of people is a lot of this was new to me because I wasn't from here. So it wasn't me wanting to be an all-styles dancer. It was me falling in love with learning new things because I had never seen it before. I didn't have access to even knowing about this stuff until I arrived. And because when I arrived, I was so introverted, this almost brought me out. It brought me outside of myself. And jazz is this beautiful thing, and house dance, these two, because I fuse the two, but there's this idea of the dance, there's no mastery. We don't chase mastery. We are students. And I think that's where people get lost, is when they're trying to adapt to a style, they stay in the idea that they can master. And you can never master style. You can only continue being a student, whether it be the style keeps changing, adapting, or your body changes, so you have to adapt to your body. So you have two things already going against you. How are you ever going to master anything when your body's going to keep changing? You in 30 years is not going to be the same thing you're going to do 20 years before. You know what I mean? So as your body changes, you stay a student. So for me, I've just kept myself being a student, because a lot of these things I could never pick up naturally. So I had to study and I had to train extra to be better. Like my family used to clown me and say, hey, you got 2 left feet. And I said, okay. And that didn't faze me. I just kept training. I just trained and trained and trained every day until I found jazz. And jazz taught me that if you stay a student, you will be okay with training. And I stayed a student at everything. And I just kept being a student. I studied. I watched how they danced. I studied why they became famous. I studied the history. I studied so many more things that it changed me. It changed me because it disciplined me. When people were trying to learn the dance, I was learning about why they danced. When people were trying to dance, I was trying to feel the dance through my hands, through my eyes, through my mouth. I was scatting music. I was stomping the ground. And because also at that time, I was going through a lot. I'd lost my father. I'd lost a best friend. So there was so much more pain and anger in me. So that when I was dancing with more power than I've ever danced. Sometimes it's like your pain is your power, which it sucks to say, but I had something more to pull from, or something more to prove to myself. And because I chased something more than myself, something just changed in me. And now I can see things faster than a lot of people. Like I can see dance, I can create so fast by just looking. Whereas before I couldn't. I couldn't even move my feet. But it was because I wasn't finding the student in myself. I was trying to master me, but there is no mastery of me. Once I got comfortable in being open to this idea of this endless person I can become, I understood what dance meant. And now I'm on this journey of just being a student and just doing whatever I want. And the quote I live by now is, I think, therefore I am. So I'm just a student. And if you see me doing something new, it's because I want to be a student.
That's awesome. I feel like that's very common in, the success of anybody in any field. Really is going into it with the open mind of, there's always something I can learn. Yes. There's almost this humility of saying, like, I don't know everything and I'm down to learn. Whereas sometimes there gets to a point in, all of our careers, we get to a certain place and we feel like this is our career, this is who we are. So I know everything because I have to know everything
Yeah.
because you're paying me
Yeah.
to do X, Y, and Z. And I really like that idea of just even now, like how many years have you been doing, house and jazz, would you be saying?
Jazz would be about 9 years now. House would be about 15, 16, almost 17 years.
And even like which is phenomenal. And for someone who has, so much knowledge to still be in that mindset of I'm still a student, I feel like that's rare.
Yeah, it really is.
I don't think, and I get it. I understand I get the coming from the place of if this is what I'm being paid to do, if this is my career path, then I do have to be a sort of expert in some sense, but that doesn't necessarily mean you can't stop learning.
Yes.
It just means you've already learned
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that's really good for dancers, but also just for anybody exploring, their passion or even career path, is just continuing on that journey of just always learning. And how do you keep that humility? Like, is that ever like a tension in you where like clearly so much,
Yes,
and you've had so much experience? Is there ever any tension where okay, I gotta, humble myself and continue to learn. But then there's this other part of you, which is like, yo, I'm freaking sick. And I know, so much, maybe even more than if you enter a classroom setting.
Yes.
There might be instances where you might even know more than, the educator or the facilitator.
Sure.
How do you navigate that tension if that ever is even a thing?
I mean, the biggest thing is like a lot of people receive dopamine from compliments, acknowledgements, awards. Me, not even. So like I've won so many amazing awards. Like I just recently won a Dora Award for my show.
Dude, yes,
And
congratulations again.
Thank you. And in my head, it was such a thing I'm so grateful for. But I'm like, you'll realize that was my first show. That means I'm just getting started. So that award doesn't mean anything yet. It just means I'm on the right path. It means I have to do more work, because that award just signifies that I'm doing the right work. That's all it does. It signifies I'm doing the right work, but it doesn't say that the work stops. It means now I gotta work harder. Because if that award proves that that's what you see, you ain't seen nothing yet, because I'm still getting started. You know what I'm saying? I always tell people I'm still warming up. I'm barely reached my final form. I'm ready to still go crazy, and I have more shows coming up, and I put more into these shows because now there's more budget, there's more time, there's more this, there's more networks. But these awards just only say, hey, this path is the right path you're working on, and these gifts you were given is rightfully yours. And as you choose to accept them, they come with things, but those things don't stop you from walking the path. They just almost let you enjoy the waterfall for a second, but you got to keep walking. And so that's how I look at things. I don't really am so surprised by acknowledgement. I should be acknowledged for working hard. I should be acknowledged for creating great work with amazing people. Yes, it's not me by myself, it's a team. So you're acknowledging a team. But what does a team keep doing? A team keeps working. Yeah, so that's how I look at things. I stay humble in the fact that the work is circular. It doesn't stop because you award me. I don't get dopamine from your award. I get more work to be done from your award.
I love that. I love that mentality. Let's talk about that award for a sec. So it was for your show Young, Gifted, in Jazz.
Yes.
And it won Outstanding Production Award.
Yes.
And was also nominated for Outstanding Performance by an Individual, which
Yes,
was
that was
yourself.
me, yes.
And then as well it was nominated for design.
Sound design, yes.
Sound design.
Yes.
Dude, that's huge. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And it was your first show.
Yes.
What was that experience like, putting the show together and then being nominated and then winning? That must have been a roller coaster of emotions.
Yeah. I mean, the show was also in itself a gift. So the show was gifted me through my teacher, Natasha Powell. And at that time, she was so busy being a mom, so she wasn't able to do the show. The show was actually supposed to be hers, not mine, which is the crazy part. It was supposed to be her show, and she knew I was working hard, and I'm continuing to work hard. So she said to me, I would love for you to have the show. And I said, yo, this has been a dream of mine. And usually I don't overstep or create outside because I'm already under her. So I'm like, it's your world. I'm just living in it. And I'm happy to be a student and let you take the accolades. And she's like, no, this is your moment. And I was like, whoa. like the most unreal message. And I was like, yo, and I had already written out so many shows. I still have. I have a book of shows.
Wow.
So I've never ever thought to make a show because I just danced in shows. So she gifted me the show, and I just pulled from the book which show represented the best.
Yeah.
And then Young, Gifted, and Jazz, the name came about the idea that there's dancers that are gifted, and all I got to do is introduce them to the jazz like it was introduced to me. So I put dancers that were not jazz dancers in. And I was like, I want you to use your gifts to show what jazz can feel like. You may not understand it yet, but you can show what it can feel like through your movement, what's inside you that I saw. And that's the gifted part. So that's why it's Young, Gifted, and Jazz, because it incorporates jazz, but it's mostly be about young and gifted, and letting that be the driving force. So that's the show. The show in itself was crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, the dancers were, because they work regular jobs. So I think we finished an hour show in a month. It was unreal. And the thing is, this was the first time I had to style a show. I bought all the costumes, all the shoes. I designed the poster for the show. I had to go through all the music, go through the order of show, and then I had to choreograph the whole show. So it was so stressful because I had a month to do all that. So the hilarious part is, like, my dancers would show up in rehearsal, and I'm like, I'm sorry, guys. You have to learn at least 5 minutes right now. I can't even teach it to you. And every rehearsal, they had to learn 5 to 6 minutes a piece. And I could never go back. I could never teach. I had to trust that they would learn. So I want to give a big shout out to my team, because that was no easy thing. Then imagine showing up to rehearsal and be like, yeah, we're learning 5 minutes of a dance you don't even understand. And they were like, yo, hold on. So sometimes I would see they would freak out. I'd be like, okay, who can take on another piece? Okay, I'll do a duet with you. Who can take another piece? And I had my best friend there, Lady C. So Lady C, she's in the jazz company with me. So we used to working together. Me and her were just in every piece. We did like 7 pieces in this whole show. And the rest I kind of shifted them to a duet, trio, so that they could have an easier approach or entry into this.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I know you said you don't get that dopamine hit from, the awards and the congratulations, but winning that Dora Award, like, what was that feeling for you? Was it what you said before, which is like, thank you, but I got to get back to work? Was there a little bit of like, wow, like that's pretty phenomenal. Like, that, to get that recognition for, especially for you doing your first show ever, there must have been some sort of even just confirmation that maybe you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. But what was that like? Did you expect to win? What was going on in your head during that?
Well, I mean, the award itself, I was like so emotional. I was truly grateful because it signified that I was doing the right work. But to be honest, the gift was my teacher giving me the show.
Yeah.
That was an award beyond awards. And that moment, she was with me throughout the whole time. We'd meet in coffee shops. We have this beautiful picture where I'm on stage with my little notebook, and she's standing right beside me. And those are the awards that are beyond the ones I can hold, because those are the ones that shape me who I am in today and continue to shape me. I like to tell people that history is not just something we read, but it is something that is carried forward through the people we meet. So my teacher's always embedding this history in me, where I'm referencing her life and the gifts she gives me, or the gifts I receive now from this world, is I always say, yo, this is who got me here. So the flowers extend these awards, and these awards are almost like, they're like I said, the awards are pit stops to me. But the gifts are having even the opportunity to showcase myself is a gift. That's the award. The award for a Dora person to come see you dance. That's an award. When do we ever have that? To receive the actual award after that is like, thank you. That's you saying thank you.
Right.
It's your thank you for my work. But the gift is just doing the work. If I can keep doing the work, that's my gift, and that's where I live. I'm grateful for that.
I love that. Do you ever get burnt out? Like, you know what I mean? Like, do you ever, this is a question I often ask, because, I feel like I speak for a lot of people, when I say, like, we enjoy working hard. Like, I love working hard and continuing to push forward and think of new opportunities and think of new ways of building something new. But with that sometimes comes exhaustion, or it comes a time where it's super stressful. And how do you keep pushing forward continually, always like seeing these milestones as just kind of steps on your journey?
Yeah.
Do you ever feel a type of exhaustion, burnout? Is there like a remedy for that? Or are you saying like, I'll sleep when I'm dead? Like I'm pushing forward.
I think burnout is natural to everybody, and it's a natural occurrence. I was burnt out recently, actually, which was like somewhat last year, because I was doing so much work, and we know Toronto's crazy expensive. And I remember it was coming into the new year, and I was so burnt out because I've understood that I've worked so much, but my financial stability wasn't where I wanted it to be. And so then I'm like pushing and pushing. I'm training 3 a.m., I'm training 5 a.m., and I'm thinking to myself, what am I doing all this for if I can't even, if I can't even get by? And so that's when I was starting to burn out. Is I was the emotional stress of the finances were catching me faster than my body was, and sometimes that's what ages you or stresses you, and then it makes your body feel like everything you're doing is just for nothing. But I always have faith, and I always have trust, and I always believe in the gift, right? So I was one of those days where I was thinking to myself, man, I'm just gonna get a job, and it was late as hell. It was like an 11 o'clock, it was 11 o'clock. It was coming into the new year. I was like, yo, man, I'm just gonna get a job, something I can actually have my finances together. And I remember I was crying on the couch, right? Because I was like, yo, man, I can barely get by. And I remember 2 minutes later, I received a phone call from my teacher. And I was like, what the hell is she calling me for? And she's like, hey, Raoul, how you doing? I'm like, yo, I'm trying my best. I'm working hard and doing what I need to do. And she's like, yo, I just got nominated for Joanna. And I'm like, yo, that's so amazing. I'm so excited for her. And she's like, yeah, it's amazing. They give me this amount of money. And she's like, and we also get to select a mentee. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, yeah, I selected you. And you also get this money. And I was like, for real? And I was like, what? And after that phone, I was like to her, I was like, you don't even know how much this phone call was needed. I'm like, you won't even know. And I didn't even explain the situation. This is the first time I've talked about it. I was like, you don't even know how much this like mattered to me. And I came into the new year financially stable because I wanted Joanna being a mentee under Natasha Powell. And that's a big thing to have.
Yeah.
So we get this amazing award, and it's not taxed. So it's money. Wow. And I was like, yo, I can finally chase the dream I had planned for the next year. And so my dream was to battle at Summer Dance Forever.
Yeah.
And I bought my ticket and I battled top 24.
Dude.
And I remember the feeling of writing down why I'm grateful for that moment and why that was a gift. And that was my driving force to make it in.
Man, that's beautiful. I feel like you reflect a lot.
Yes.
Which I think is something I need to get better at. Because sometimes I just feel like I'm just always like go. But there's so much, I think, importance and beauty in just like taking a pause and acknowledging like how you got here, why you got here, who helped you get here. Yes. And that almost serves as even more fuel for you to continue pushing further. So that's really cool. I really admire that. Dude, Summer Dance.
Yes.
Talk about that. What was that experience like, dude? That's huge.
Yeah, that was huge for me. That was like the biggest thing I've ever done in my life.
Dude, unreal. Yeah. Tell us how it went. So you bought your flight. So you had you had a bit of that money.
Yeah.
You said this is going to be my next goal. You're flying all the way over. What was that experience?
Yeah. So Summer Dance in itself, I already knew was going to be the biggest challenge because I had gone there 7 years. It had been 7 years later because I haven't been flying, right? I've only been working, and it's hard to fly when, again, you're getting by. But now life was gifting me more jobs and things like that. My year was looking so beautiful, and it still is. Now I can say I'm financially stable. I'm doing amazing.
Dude, that's awesome.
After that phone call, I went even crazier. I was like, let's go further. Let's bring in new elements. I brought in art, and I brought in new ways of getting more income and more bigger networks. But anyway, Summer Dance Forever, I already knew it wasn't about my dance. Because I was like, I know my dance is good enough to show. I was like, it's beyond dance. It's how I show up that's important. So I remember I wrote down in my notepad, I wrote myself a little manifestation that I was going to read leading up to it and right before I entered. So reading up to it, I was on the plane. I remember I had to fly because I was teaching university. So I had to fly right after class. Jeez. So it was crazy. I landed the same day. I didn't even have time to take my bags. But I remember reading that note saying, yo, Remember what got you here, and this moment is important for you and who you're doing it for. And I mentioned my father and the people that that was my main driving force. And then right before I went on, it was like 2 numbers before me, I pulled out my phone, I reread it again, and then I looked up and I did this. And once I did that, I knew my mind was already gone. And I was kind of like, also I was jet lagged so far that I was like kind of in insanity.
Yeah.
I was almost in, I was in a different realm. So I stood there like this and I just waited. And as soon as they said my number, I went in storming, caught everything, and I could see everything so fast. I caught all the sounds. I knew how to engage the crowd.
Yeah.
And immediately then I was like, I made it. Right after I walked off, I was like, I did that.
Hell yeah.
And then I remember filming the screen where they do like they say the names.
Yeah.
My name was second, and I was just there like, yeah.
Oh man.
And I had made a video the year before saying, hey Raoul, you're gonna make it this year. It's gonna be an amazing time for you. You gotta believe in yourself and you gotta trust in yourself. And that's exactly what I did.
Dude, that's awesome.
Most unreal gift.
Yeah. And then how did it feel coming back from summer dance? Like, were you inspired? I'm assuming motivated, like so much talent out there, and then coming back, did that fuel you, or did you need a vacation for like a week?
There
just
was
to
no
sleep?
vacation. I was coming back to work.
Yeah.
I was coming because I was right after summer dance. I was teaching vernacular spectacular, teaching under legends like Chester Whitmore and Sariola and Natasha Powell. I was teaching already, so I was like, I got to prep for that. So there was no break. It was like, okay, now I'm teaching mode. Okay, let's study. Let's make sure we get things together. Let's build a playlist. What do people need? What can people gain from me? So it was an extra work that I did, which was like another gift is on the way. I got to be ready for it. I got to be ready to receive, but also give. So as soon as that was done, it was on to the next. We ain't no stopping. But the amount of love I received was unreal. Like Toronto really showed up for me, was powerful. And the rest of the world too, to be honest.
Yeah. Dude, that's iconic. Like representing Toronto, representing Canada, being out there, and like I can't think of anyone to represent better, to be honest. Like you're the one. Like you're the one that did that, and it's so cool. Do you think what's the future plans for that? Do you think you'll try and take a stab back at summer dance again?
I definitely will.
Yeah.
I definitely will. 100%. We got to go crazier.
So we've touched a bit on dance, which is obviously a big part of your life. But as I mentioned before, you're probably the most multifaceted artist I know. You have so many passions in the field of the arts. You paint, you're in fashion, you dance, you make music. I found your SoundCloud.
Yes.
Let's explore the fashion a little bit. Like you're probably one of the most well-dressed guys that I know. Has this always been a thing? Has this been recent? Where's this come from?
So the fashion was because of jazz. So because jazz was the one style that brought me back into student mode, which was kind of nice. Because I think before jazz, I was like trying to become something that is really nothing. Because that something didn't really end up being anything. And so then jazz kind of brought me back into being a student and being like, nah, it's beyond that something is what you actually want to reach for. And I was like, oh, what is beyond that something? It's greatness. But it's only greatness that I achieve for myself. Is how far I want to take myself. And so then jazz was like this realm of like not getting it and like not feeling fly. And the not feeling fly is not a good thing for me. I like feeling fly. So I remember showing up to rehearsals. I would show up to rehearsals based on how the dancers dressed at that time. So I would go to a thrift store and I'd buy me a nice little blazer or a nice little dress pants or whatever dress shoes I thought would like be fly. And every day I would show up in a new outfit because I'd be thrifting and trying to feel like something, you know? And it kind of built my style, which is dope. And the more I did it, the more I fell in love with jazz and the fashions around jazz and the fashion around the Harlem Renaissance and carrying that forward in a contemporary context. Like you see me throw a suit on, but put some shorts on, kind of playing the two. So jazz kind of brought me into the fashion game because it brought about that fine line of like dress your age, but mix it up a little bit. Based on currents, I thought about jazz and dance, and I was like, okay, you just got to connect the two. So jazz really made me fall in love with fashion.
Well, and then most people show up to a house class in like the most bouncy, like comfortable sneakers that you can find.
Yeah.
And then you show up and I see you come into class with full on dress shoes.
Yep.
And how are your feet after class? Are there like mad blisters, or you just fight through the pain, or how do you how? That's the question.
That's a great question. That's a great question. And the funny part about it is house dance is based on this idea that you control your feet to the point where you don't put pressure. There's no pressure on the ground, right? Your feet naturally are in this rhythmic, polyrhythmic, syncopated concept that it keeps changing based on how you interpreting the music. So for me, dress shoes are a way of me not even having to pick up my foot. So I'm just sliding and just doing micro steps. So you'll see me look like I'm gliding or shifting or moving on water. It's because I'm not lifting anymore. I don't have to do this anymore. I just do this. So when everybody's trying to step on this ground, I'm like this. I'm like, oh yeah, we flying. So for me, the dress shoes takes away the friction, and I can just almost float. And when you can float, it's even more unreal how fast you can catch time in terms of music. So now I can tweak a little heel here because there's no friction. I could tweak a little heel, bring this leg out. I can use this leg as a counterweight to push this other leg. I could step the leg. There's so many more ideas now based on how it feels under me. Because everybody dances how it feels above them. I dance how it feels under me, which is a different way to approach it.
Yeah.
But the dress shoes help add more to that. So I can do crazier things. So I'll take foundation and flip it times 10 because I got the slip.
And it looks good.
Yeah.
You look good in class too. That's like a bonus.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna just quick circle back.
Yes.
Clearly you're passionate about jazz.
Yes.
It's changed your life. You're so passionate about it. For someone who's interested in jazz,
Yes.
who wants to learn more, who wants to dive in, what resources, what guides, where would you point them if somebody wants to learn more about that?
That's the greatest question. I think it starts with the music. You gotta love the music. I try to tell anybody, even if you want to private with me, hey, do you like the music first? Because we're not gonna get through anything if you don't even listen to this music. So I think anybody that wants, the problem is how people get into things. Like a lot of people want to get into jazz because they know it looks cool, because I make it look cool. But I'm like, what you're going to learn is not what I do. What I do is now in all an essence of how I've taken jazz and made it a spirit. So I can jazz any style now, but that doesn't mean that that's what you're going to do. You have to learn the foundation, which is not based upon my footwork. My footwork is the foundation advanced into my spirit. And now it's this full idea where I can freak a step, or I take an itch and I'll throw a slide with an itch instead, whereas other people will just take an itch. So there's way more advancements to how I see things. So anybody, to start anything, starts with the love of the music. After you love the music, start learning about the dances, learn about the history of the dance, learn about ragtime, learn about blues, learn about jazz, learn about big bands. Go watch some live music. Enjoy it for what it is, and be a student of music first. And then, hey, if you love that, guess what? When you hear a teacher play a track, you'll be like, yo, I know that track, I love that track. Your excitement is already the first foundational step that you should have started with before learning the dance, because now your excitement is filled with your movement, and now your movement is whole. It's not half anymore. And usually people start half and they try to find the whole, but they can never catch up to the whole because they never understand the half. They can never fully understand the half, where the whole is just the love. If you don't already start with the love, then you always just have half.
Yeah, I can resonate with that a ton. I find when trying to create combos or trying to create movement, if I'm not in love with the song, I already know it's not going to go well. And then I look back on, the pieces that I've made that I've enjoyed the most, or even that maybe get the most reception. And I look back and it was because I fell in love with the song first. It wasn't trying to do cool moves and then find a song that matches. It was, okay, this is like, I don't care who tells me anything. This song is fire. And I don't care what I'm going to do to it, but I just need to move to this song because it's moving me. And starting from that place rather than from another place, I think is so, so important. So are there any, do you have any current artists that for someone who's like looking to explore, like,
Yeah.
do you have any current artists that you're super into that you're listening, past artists, any recommendations for music artists for people to start falling in love with jazz?
I mean, I love like Louis Armstrong, Etta James, Nina Simone, Charlie Parker. There's so many amazing. I think all the greats have already created something that's so powerful. Why go forward? Start there, and then you almost will go forward naturally by falling in love and learning and seeing what fits your palate. But you got to try a few things in order to figure out what meals you kind of like to eat, and that's my analogy for the
Dude,
for the music.
I love
but
that.
I'm a heavy blues guy, and often when I'm walking around, I love like a good neo soul. I love a good R&B, a good Motown, like something different than what I normally do. Because I've trained so hard that I need something else to slow me down. Otherwise, my body just wants to keep going. So I'm like, let me play on some Motown, and then it's just, my girl, I'm talking about, and then I'm just having that moment where I can just like be at ease and my brain can kind of shut down.
Yeah.
And then when that song's done, it's like, okay, it's 3:00 in the morning. Let's go hit the gym. It's time to train. We're labbing out now. But I'm labbing from the concept that now I'm premeditated this idea where I'm free. I've played a blues song and I've sat in silence. I've sat in the light, and now my feeling to train is so open. I'm ready to work. Whereas people just go in the light and they're like, okay, I'm ready to work. No, you're not gonna work because now your brain is everywhere. You haven't shut down. You have to shut down in order to continue. If you just move forward from where you just were, you're continuing with those thoughts. And then now you just clogged. You filled with other things outside of what's supposed to help inspire you. So for me, I need the opposite to inspire me forward. And usually like it's pain music, and I'll just be like this. I'll just be living in pain. Yeah. And then I'm like, I just need to dance. And then I'll play a blues song, and you see me like, oh, the face is like stanking, the movement's moving, and I'm flying through it because I'm pulling from somewhere else. It's not I just didn't show up in this random light. Right. No, I showed up with a feeling. And now I can train. I can't train without that feeling. Otherwise, I'll just be like, what am I doing here? I'll start looking at my outfit like, oh man, that t-shirt's off. But if I train with that feeling, it don't matter what I look like. Because I know, I walk away, I'll be like, yeah, I did 2 rounds, I'm good. That's my training for the day. Because I know I'm so connected. And that connection is, if it's 2 songs, it's 2 songs. And I guarantee that will make me so much greater because I was connected. And in connection, there is this idea of like remembrance and greatness because it's real, it's raw, and it's you. And that's the real training. The training is getting closer to yourself, not getting far from yourself to understand somebody else's life, but getting closer to yourself. And that's something people don't train enough. They don't learn about themselves, so they don't find ways to come back into self. They always just outside of self and trying to pull and pull and pull, and all you're doing is filling your pockets but never filling your spirit. And because you fill in your pockets, guess what happens? It weighs you down. And what happens after that is you quit because you're like, man, I can't handle this. Because you never ever thought about yourself through it. You only thought about what it did to you, and all it did to you was give you weight.
Man, if people didn't believe me before when I said you're an artist, bro, like they better believe now. Man, everything that you're saying, bro, I feel like we can dissect for like days. I'm just so appreciative that you're down to share all of this.
Yes.
I wanted to just quickly also touch on, you're also a visual artist.
Yes.
And it blew, I'll be honest, like it blew my mind.
Yep.
When I saw, your the first few pieces of art that I saw. And I'm like, he can do this too? Like, you're already the best house dancer I've seen in my life. And then now on top of that, you're also incredibly fashionable. And then on top of this, you can also create legit some of the most creative and artistic pieces of art that I've seen. Correct me if I'm wrong, some of your art got commissioned at the Four Seasons?
Yes.
Dude,
yes.
That's insane. So yeah, talk a little bit about that. Like how do you find time to balance, your teaching, you're in university, you're a professor, you're dancing, you're putting on shows, you're obviously super into fashion, that takes time and energy, and then you're also creating visual art on the side at the same time. Dude, like where do you find the time? And when did that passion start?
Yeah. I guess I find the time because a lot of the times it's just me. A lot of people either have partners or they have things that they go to, or like go to the movies and things like that. I don't. I go to work. I do stuff. So for me, my way of enjoying life is by continuing to add to it or continuing to learn. So art started. I used to draw in high school. I was really good in high school, and I was like, I want to be an artist, or I was going to be a chef. It was either or. And I was like, that's what I wanted to do. And it kind of stopped because, again, once high school finished, real life kicked in. And because I was living in that struggle for longer than I should have been, it was tough to be an artist, you know, being a visual artist. And so then 2 years ago, I was on the beach, and I remember because I was dancing, and in between dancing, I would find ways to just like listen to music. And I would go to the beach, I would go to a park to just kill time before the next class, because I didn't want to go home, because home kind of traps you. I wanted to be outside, so I just like lay on the grass, and I was like to myself, and this was just after me getting into like podcasts, like the Huberman Lab. And I was studying about brain activity and stuff like that, which is like random as hell, but I was learning about the neuroscience and like the brain. And there was one point where he was like, you know, if you try something new every day, you can get really good at it. And I was thinking to myself on the beach, I was like, I got a paper and a pen with me. It wasn't like a big paper, but I had a paper and pen with me. And I said, if I draw every day, I was thinking to myself, I just said this to myself, if I draw every day for a year, I wonder what could happen. So every day I went to a coffee shop I bought a book from the dollar store, and I had a pen. And every day I drew. And a year later, I got my first commission to do this big art piece live in front of an audience. Because people started seeing my work and be like, yo, you're getting really good. And then I did my first showing, and then I just continued getting crazier and crazier and training even harder. And the one I just recently did is actually weird because it was probably my third commission. I had made $300, which is like the most money I've made in art.
Yeah.
Right. So I was like, I'm gonna reinvest it. So I bought this big canvas, 12 by 30, and I was like, I'm this weird guy where I like to try new things, and I was like, let me paint. I don't know nothing about paint. I literally know nothing about painting. So I'm like, let me paint. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm looking at the canvas like, how do I even start? So this was in February. I bought this canvas. February or March. I buy this canvas, and I'm thinking to myself, I want to paint it. And I was like, okay, let me first practice. So I stopped practicing painting. I'm like, I'm so bad at this. Painting is not for me. So I put the canvas away. I tuck it behind my couch. I don't touch it. Last week, for some reason, I don't know what happened to myself. I haven't practiced painting since. I was just in the mood. It was like 3 a.m. and I was so uplifted, and I was like, what if I just paint? Like, why not? So I just grabbed my paint, and for 5 hours, I did half the face, and I was like, this is the most amazing thing I've ever done. And I was like, how did I even do this? And then I started to remember that it was because of my fashion and mixing colors and color palettes. I started looking at paint as a color palette that is kind of coordinated to fashion. So I was using like darker colors as shades, lighter colors as light, like I would use with a pen or a pencil. And I created this masterpiece. And now I'm like, my friends were even saying to me, like, this is your best work. Dude. And I was like, I did not practice for this work. It got gifted to me naturally. And now 3 days, I spend 3 days, 5 hours a day. I was between the hours of 2 to 6 o'clock in the morning. And then I'm part of a run club, and then I'd go run right after. Jeez. And then I'd sleep after that. So between the hours of 2 to 6, I was painting, and I managed to finish it in 3 days.
When do you sleep? You don't?
I take naps.
Okay. Wow.
People sleep, I take naps.
Wow.
Yeah.
So are you selling the artwork? Are you in the process? Where can people, if they are interested in any of your work, is there somewhere that you can guide them? So
I posted this one recently, and somebody yesterday messaged me and said, I'll buy it right now. And I said, oh my God, okay, well, this one sold. So unfortunately, I had to post online. I said, a lot of people are buying prior to me even showing, because next year I want to do a gallery launch. Sick. I want to do a gallery launch / fashion show to incorporate my clothing and my artwork, and with a bunch of flowers. I love that. But people are buying it ahead of time. So I'm like, if you can you like say that you want this piece before I sell? Because it's selling faster than me even launching. Wow. So I had to tell the buyer, I'm like, hey, I still want to launch first before you take it. Yeah. Let me do that first. And then I'm going to do a massive piece, probably like my size, and auction that one.
Dude.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
That one's gonna be my biggest. That's gonna be a big jazz piece.
Dope.
Yeah, a jazz cafe.
Sick. Okay,
Yeah.
you'll have to keep us in the loop
That
on
one's gonna
when
be
that
nuts.
one drops.
Yeah.
Give us the early drop.
Yeah.
Let us know when it comes up before everybody
It's
else.
gonna be massive.
Dude, that's awesome. And it's cool to see how, I feel like you were saying, like, you didn't practice it. It didn't come from, you went back to paint and you worked on that. It just flowed organically. Yeah. And I feel like that's the really cool thing about art is it doesn't have boundaries.
Yes.
Like you can work on one art form and it can translate to other art forms as well.
Yeah.
And so you working, whether it's in fashion, like you said, or dancing, and how that can still correlate and you can still improve in another art form by exploring one art form.
Yes.
I think that's so beautiful, and that you don't really find with many other things in the world other than art. And
I'll tell you where my first problem was when I first wanted to paint. Again, I was going into it to a mastery. That's why I was like, let me practice before I paint. Instead of let me just paint and make a mistake. And that's why when I'd come back into it, I was more clear-headed and I was back in where I should have been, my student mode. And I was like, let's just try stuff.
Yeah.
And I was trying stuff. I had changed colors. I changed a few things. And naturally, I found my flow in change and being a student and trying. And this is a funny thing. I actually learned this from one of my nephews because I was at home and I remember this was when I was living in my little room and I was learning how to DJ. Because I was just, I don't know why.
Yeah.
Just me again.
Yeah.
I was learning how to DJ because I was like, would it be fun to DJ a class? Like DJ my own classes. So I was learning how to DJ. And I remember like being so technical. My nephew walked in the room and he started touching buttons. Like he was super young at the time. And so many cool things were happening. I'm like, yo, how do you know this? He's like, I don't even know what I'm doing. And I was like, oh my God, what the hell? I could have done that too? And so I started doing the same thing. And I have my own ways of mixing and I just correlated that to life. So shout out to my nephew for teaching me the biggest lesson is stay a student and just learn as you go. And in the mistakes is where you find actually the key to unlock half the things you think you knew.
Jeez. Yes. Yes to all of that. Okay, super quick.
Yes.
So maybe somebody's never taken, I'm just going to circle it back to dance.
Yes.
Someone's never taken a Raoul class before.
Yes.
What can they expect walking into that room?
Well, they can definitely expect me and my energy 100%.
Yeah.
I like to tell people when they walk into the room, it's not about picking up anything. It's about understanding why. Because that's the greatest reason that's going to keep you there. If you try to pick up, you'll be happy for the next few whiles, but you won't stay. I try to teach people that it's beyond me, and what I'm teaching you is for you to teach yourself and for you to do more homework outside of myself. It's like a school. And I also tell people, like, I'm not going to dumb down this movement for you. If you feel like it's hard, it's because that's how it is, and that's why it's dope. You want to learn it how it is. Stop trying to change it. And I guarantee when you first finally learn that one step that you thought was the toughest thing, you're going to be so like excited to learn more. And the idea of work and working hard is going to be something that's so real for you and it feel good for you and you're going to want that versus like I need to show up and get something and then walk away. No, then you never actually fill again. You fill the pockets because people are like, yeah, you did great and you walk away like this. Yeah, like I killed that class. Let me get that footage. But after like 10 years, that I killed that class goes away. And then you go find something else to fill that pocket.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I tell people, no, this is why it's dope, is because when you come to me, don't matter who's in the room, even myself, we are learning. And sometimes when they watch me, I change things up also. And I'm like, yo, let me try something. Hold on, don't move for a second because my brain's still working. And I'm still being a student and I'm reteaching myself. So I'm like, yo, let me try something. And they're like, yo, what's going on? And they're like, yo, can you show us what you just did? I'm like, I don't even know what I just did. My brain just thought of it too. I'm like, that's the beauty of learning is we're learning together. And by me teaching, I'm reteaching myself.
Wow. I feel like there's so much there. So many gold nuggets.
Yes.
Bro, I just appreciate you so much. Just being willing to share like I said before, everything that you've learned, and you're still so willing with all of the accolades, with all the awards, with being a professor, with all the opportunities that you have, the fact that you still show up every week and just share with our community. Like, yeah, if I haven't said it enough, I just want to like say thank you for sharing and being open to share. It really does mean a lot to our community here. And the dancers here, and not just here, but like across Canada. We got dancers in Vancouver looking up to you and like can't wait to take your class, which we're definitely going to make happen. But also just being here today, taking time out of your clearly busy schedule of just being here and being down to share and being so open. And you just have this energy about you. And you know this, and anyone that's talked to you before, you lift people up and you just bring so much joy. And I think in today's world, that's pretty rare. And so I just want to acknowledge that, and I want to give you your flowers.
Thank you.
You love those flowers. And I just want you to know that you make such an impact on the people around you at the studio here, but also just walking around the studio. In life, there's like, you're a unicorn. There's very few people like you. And I just want to encourage you to keep doing what you're doing, because you're shining a extremely bright light, and it's contagious.
Thank you.
So thank you for being here, and just sharing. And thank you for tuning in to another episode. I feel like I kind of forgot people were watching. Thank you so much. Before I thank them, back to you. Where can people find you online?
So you can follow me on my social media, Instagram. I'm very active on there, at Raoul Wilke.
Well, thank you so much again, everybody, for tuning in to another episode of the Studio North podcast here. Really appreciate you. Be sure, if you haven't already, to smash that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, throw a like in there, drop a comment down below. That really helps us know what you want to hear, what you want to listen to, who you want to see on the podcast, and it just allows us to know we're doing the right thing. Thank you so much for tuning in on this amazing episode of the Studio North podcast, and we will see you next time here on the Studio North podcast.
Let's go.
Peace.